Welcome to 12 Days of COP. My name's Andrea Edwards and I'm your host. And today we are back in Kenya, in Nairobi, and I'm so happy to introduce you to Wakili Kaaka, who's a final year law student, I believe, but also a climate activist. So welcome, Wakili.
Yeah,
welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea. And it's really a big pleasure having me here. It's been really a very exhausting month with full flurry of activities here.
Yeah.
Backwards with lots of work, but I'm really happy to be here today, and I'm really hoping to see what we want to do in the interview. Thank you so much.
Nice. All right, so let's start with the most important thing so people can get to know you. What your background? So yeah, I know you're in your final year at university. So do you want to just tell us what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah. So as you heard, my name is Wakili Kaaka, and I'm a final law student in the University of Nairobi here in Kenya. I am also the director and the founder of East Africa Campuses and Colleges Green Network, which is basically a network that turns climate actions into livelihoods. And yeah, my background also, I come from the pastoral community, so from some part of indigenous community, the Masai people, who are extensively found in Kenya and across the East Africa parts of Tanzania. And yeah, that's basically what defines my background.
Yeah. Nice. I didn't realize you were part of the Masai, because I know in the last few years there's been some terrible situations happening there. So the fact that you're doing law, I'm sure, is a big boon for your community as well. So do you want to talk a little bit about what's happening with the Masai at the moment?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I want to say that what the biggest problem that we face as the Masai community is that the drought is really a big thing that is affecting us. And you know, for us, the livelihoods that we get into, and our way of life is basically we deal with animals. Like we heavily depend on the animals, and that is sometimes when the drought hits hard, it ends up killing all the animals and all the sheep and all the goats. And it's really a big thing because the weather changes and becomes unpredictable, and it has been really a big issue. Sometimes when it rains, floods become a problem. Sometimes when the rain ceases, the drought becomes a problem at the same time. So either way, either it's raining or there's no rain, we are all either way affected. And this had actually formed some part of my my background call that rolls my sleeves to jump into, like, find other alternatives of livelihoods from where I fly from. And this is really some sort of motivation since I was young. And back in 2020, we really experienced very heavy drought, which my family, myself, lost about 220 cows. I always tell people that if you check on my Twitter handle, the pinned tweet over there, you'll be able to see myself and my animals at the back, piles and piles of carcasses of animals because of the drought. So that's basically what the biggest challenge the Maasai are facing. And then the other challenge is they end up losing land because we migrate a lot looking for water and pasture. So once you migrate, you might not come necessarily to where you were before. So before the partitioning of land and the laws existed and all that kind of thing in property and everything, there were not the subdivision of boundaries. So the Maasai people end up losing a lot of land because of the nature of movement here and there.
Yeah, the paths to migration, which is so important, right? All right, so I know you're still young, and it was a long time ago for me when I had my first epiphany, but what was the first moment that you realized that we were in trouble from an environmental perspective? Because just from your cultural heritage, you're so much closer to the land than the vast majority of humans on this planet, right? So was there a moment, an event? Was it the drought 2 years ago? Was it something else? What made you sort of realize you needed to get involved and to become such a powerful climate advocate or activist? Sorry.
Thanks, Andrea. So many things happened, and you know, from every country, I unlike many other countries in the whole world, my community in the ancient times did not believe in the power of education. So our parents would prefer taking a kid to go to to look after the animals other than going to school. So it was a big thing. So by then, people did not really value education to where I come from than the other tribes. So you'll find that anytime a child gets an opportunity to go to school, my parents will sound like it's a punishment. So so they think they are rewarding someone who is going to graze the animals. So that one who wants to go to school, they punish you to go to school. So they think going to school is punishing you basically. But the one who is going to look after the animals, they're actually doing a good thing to them. So what happened is, literally, us as a Masai people, do we really have any other source of livelihoods completely rather than the animals? That's basically what we depend on 100%. I can say we don't have, like, just the way the other people will like, let's say, get into things like, let's say, circles to like let's say banking and all kind of thing, maybe borrow loans and all that. For us, we don't necessarily have all that. We 100% believe on the animals, and this is really what made me to like champion for my people, champion for my country as well, and now stepping into the being the global voice and actually African continent as well. And the turning point is just go back to what I just mentioned a few minutes ago, is that we've been in the phase whereby the only animals that were left in my herd were only about 16 animals, and we are quite many in our home with 6 children, and we heavily depend on all these animals for us to they sell the animals for school fees, they do it for food. And that particular moment is when I opened my eyes and realized that if there is nothing big I can be able to do, then at least I can be a voice which can bring the change. And that is the point, the moment I decided to like create awareness. Back in the village, I used to have a small community-based organization called CBO, and the basis of the CBO was to basically sensitize communities, because there's also a lot of burning of charcoals in where I come from, and this had led us to like cut out of a lot of trees, and this one led to a lot of changes in weather. We no longer receive rainfall and so many other things. So back in the village at the level of the CBO, I had mobilized so many things. I had like having women indulge into small merchandising enterprises like beading and beadwork and many other things. The alternative for me doing this was to ensure that I have got an alternative creation of livelihoods other than the animal sensors. So that is basically what pushed me to this. And then I went ahead and I talked to the local banks in where I come from, and the women formed a self-help group within them, and then the bank will give them a small loans, and then those loans they will take them and then return in small grants, and then they sell the beads. Look at the for market, they sell the beads, and through the beads they'll be able to take their children to school. So today, if you come to Kajiado County, there's a lot of inspiring stories for women back in the village. There are some children who have already graduated from school because of the work that they decided to do. The other part is basically we're also looking for an alternative way of for food insecurity. And what I did is we realized that there are so many other avenues. Like, for example, we could, instead of keeping a large number of animals, we could basically put few number of animals, but which are drought tolerant, and they can be able to do what is called multi-purpose. They can have milk and meat at the same time, rather than just meat. And then we also trained the people back in the village to ensure that they can do kitchen gardens. There is not much water, but they will grow vegetables in the sacks, which ensure that there is no waste of water. So any water that is used, they recycle the water to ensure that there is proper usage of that particular water. So growing slowly, that is what motivated me. I went ahead since I joined university back in 2021. I mobilized young people, and now we have got a network that surpasses over 40,000 young people in East Africa who are doing a lot of advocacy. We have actually been engaged in so many high-level events. I was appointed as the Climate Clock Head Kenya, and I was also appointed as the African Climate Summit work stream on the thematic youth. And many other entities came through because of the kind of the hard work that I said take a step ahead to make sure that I bring the voice.
Wow. Well, Good on you, Dales. That is amazing. And it's like, just, for anyone listening, it can be done. It can be done. It's just the will. And I'm sure are your parents very proud of what you're doing, even though they weren't necessarily always sort of supportive of the whole idea of education? Do they value it now?
Yep. So they're very much proud of me, my work, and lots of things. And in fact, they were even astonished for me for the first time to get into an aeroplane. They were really happy because such was a history in the village. Like a young man coming from the village, and for us as Masai, we are distinguished with how we dress. So the first time I went to the airport, I went with my regalia, my traditional. And I turned out to be a tourist attraction site. Everybody was taking pictures of me in the airport. They were wondering, who is this?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Good on you. Oh, well, keep going. And if there's anything I can do to help support you, let me know. So let's just move on to COP28. There's been a lot coming through. There's a lot of antagonism. There's a lot of cynicism. There's some possible positive paths that we've still got some ways to go. But anything jumped out at you so far that you think is important?
I first of all want to appreciate the fact that the milestone we have come is really inspiring, because sometimes back where we were, and I really want to. I always, anytime I get an opportunity to speak in a webinar, in a conversation, I always really thank our president, for example, William Ruto, because it is the first time, for instance, in Africa that we are speaking from one united voice. After the African Climate Summit, the African voice was united, and through this, I think in the past days, in COP26 in Glasgow, and that's this conversion to COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. There's so many things that are happening. And being a law student, I've really been following on backdated then when COP conferences started. And I have really been, because in 2015 is basically after the treaty for the Paris Agreement, is basically where these things are proud and seems to have really a good way of approach of things. If you look at, I don't know that you got an opportunity to read through the Paris Agreement. Article 9 speaks about the climate finance, which has been really a big conversation all across the world. And basically the idea of the degree Celsius that they discussed on putting greenhouse gas emissions for every country was also something to consider. But if you look at the way things are, I always say we do not have end-to-end encrypted kind of a legal framework that makes this function. These factors are come out through, because the concept of states coming together, speaking about something, and then materializing it to work is something too different completely. Coming to COP28, I have seen quite things that I think I can say they are quite promising. One of them is the idea of loss and damage. We have hope that maybe by the end of the 12 days of COP, they're going to implement, because in as much as people are, there's so much politics, in as much as we do not want to put this across. The truth must always stand out. There are countries that really facing climate crisis, and it is not because of we're not blaming anyone, because climate change is equally the same everywhere in the world. But we are saying that this is the truth, that the developed countries basically are contributing to the climate change, and we are all aware of that, and that is the truth. And as per the laws, if you breach the contract, there's always, of course, there are consequences for this, and they are the same people who came with an agreement that says for anyone who breach the contract in terms of heavily industrialized countries are going to increase the greenhouse gas emissions and many other things, then they should create a repayment fee for the people that are affected. So first is the idea of loss and damage. We are seeing it coming out, materializing, and we hope that it's going to work. And then the other part that has opened the whole conversation is basically the area around GCF, Green Climate Fund, and I think if it can have a framework to ensure that it does not necessarily have the top notch of the government, then this can be devolved down to the common mwananchi. A common mwananchi is a man from the lowest man on the ground. We call them here in Kenya hustlers. Hustlers are people who work with very small jobs and maybe they live below $1. I think that's the best understanding for you. So if it can be devolved to that particular level, I'll be able to appreciate it. And then the other fact is I want to thank the fact that we now having so many young people involved, which we always say that they are the solutions for the climate crisis that we face. And we are seeing these climate activists in different levels. And through this, we can able to say that, unlike before, the young people can also be part of the policies making. And I really appreciate this. I had an interview a few days ago with Climate Live, and even I think tomorrow I'm speaking in a high level events just here in Kenya, but I'm going to be doing a webinar where we have the presidency also for COP, Sultan Jabbar, and I'll be able to deliver also a key message to ensure that no step at a time the young people will be left out in terms of decision making. And those are the few outcomes that I have seen that are actually coming out. And then the other part is, I also love the fact that the outcome of Geneva for all the world indigenous people, they'll have a platform. So the outsays, they are going to be having a meeting this coming Friday for all the indigenous people. Even that recently there was a meeting in Geneva, which brought all different parts of indigenous people to put a voice, to put a note on a paper, and also to share out their demands and their grievances as well.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely 100% right. We absolutely have to embrace our Indigenous brothers and sisters, or we won't have a chance. I really believe that. So, but best of luck. I hope it goes really well. It's so, I said it before, but it really is so inspiring to hear what you're saying. And also that mobilization of youth and that unity of Africa is really coming through strong every time I speak to people. And that's not something we're seeing in other parts of the world. So I think it's a sign that obviously you're experiencing so much so soon and dealing with it and mobilizing into action. So I think you guys will lead the world ultimately, because it needs to happen. All right. It's for you. It's what does it mean to you? How when you talk about it to your friends and family, how do you express it?
I want to say It's For You campaign is the way It's For You was born. It was in a very unexpected way, because the ultimate goal for me, first of all, meeting David Ko, was that he came for the launch of my network, East Africa Campus and Colleges Green Network, and we did this because I have that kind of a gift in terms of networking and talking to people in different levels. And that's the first time we met with David. With David Ko, he came to Kenya all the way purposely because of the launch of the ESCGN that we are having. And it was really, we had really mobilized different people and business community as well. And then we also had government officials, like we had invited the cabinet secretary for sports and youth affairs to be in attendance, and that is how I met with David Ko. And then we took a couple of rounds around different places in Kenya. He even visited my home, where he was so much interested on the issue of the water for Masai, and we went home. We check around how things look like, how the animals drink water, and all that kind of thing. And then afterwards, he came back to the UK. And then during the African Climate Summit, we were organizing again, East Africa Campus and Colleges Green Network were organizing for a side event. So we are engaging in a couple of so many events within Nairobi, where the high level events was happening for all the African heads of state. And we'd got a couple of side events. And one of the side events was the idea of transformational ownership. So he approached me and we talked, and we decided that we're also going to have a center whereby we're going to have the Center of Humanity and Dignity. And basically this was championed by Transformational Ownership. And this is forms the biggest part of their book that they wrote in Sustainable Truth. And that is how basically after the 12 days, after the 4 days of ACS, is when the idea of It's For You came about. And through that, I think we've been building up. The biggest part of this conversation has been supported by the young people in my network and across East Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, Bujumbura, Burundi, and many other parts. Actually, even outside Africa, because I remember we talked to We talked to Malawi when there was Freddy Cyclone. I got an opportunity to go to Gambia during the LYCO. So it's an interconnected kind of an approach, and that's how it for you was what came about. So after ACS, we decided that we're going to do. David Coe is really did not believe on the idea of how cops work. He really different kind of a person in terms of believing on what the outcomes of conference of parties works and all that kind of thing. Of course, for me, I also had an idea of like how political sometimes, COP conferences look like, because there was also a time I had decided I'm going to vie for some position as a young person in the UNFCCC. And one of the things that came to my mind is there's this young lady who was appointed to be the United Nations envoy's voice. Her name is Alicia, I think it's Alicia, yeah. And the way she was elected is that they did not consider so many factors as per where one's fly from. And that's the moment I realized that it's quite political in nature. And we decided that we're going to do this to ensure that even though not everybody can fly to COP, at least you can participate in this particular kind of an event. So that's how It's For You was brought about. And I can be able to say that it was a vision shared together, me, David Coe, and Richard, of course, although Richard never came to Kenya, but he was in the UK, but of course he's been in the meeting and so many other things. So we've taken time to speak to so many people. I really been able to bring a lot of network, lots of people. I was engaged in a Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Not sure whether you know about it. It's called PACJA. It's one of the biggest organizations in Africa. And we spoke to the executive director, Mithika Mwenda. We also spoke to Safaricom, which is a communication network here in Kenya. And through that, we are able to do so many events across different parts. So that's how It's For You was born.
Right. That's amazing. So how can everyone get involved? And obviously, if you've got wonderful networking skills like Wakili has, that's always a really, really, really good skill to sort of bring to the table if you want to build something. But how can people get involved?
Yeah, there are quite many ways that you can get involved. For example, for us, for now as we speak, we are having sporting activities that are going on. And if you look at our website, escgn.org, maybe I can put on the chat, you can check it out later. If you look at us, we were able to, we really believe that if you look at the chronicles, even back in the Bible, when Jesus was teaching people, he first ensured that these people are not hungry, and then now he can deliver the message, which is really important, because you cannot tell someone something when he's hungry, when there is no food. So what ESCGN does is basically the people who are passionate about climate, we find a solution whereby we can turn climate action into livelihoods. And through this, we are able to see so many things happening. We have got a startup inside us of young people who basically discovered, they came up with sanitary pads for girls out of a banana fiber, and they end up winning the Halt Prize winners, and they got $1 million, which is about 100 million Kenyan shillings. And through this, we are able to bring so many young girls to school, because beating the pads hunger was a big issue here, whereby girls could not afford the pads to go to school. And now it is a whole business, because one, the pads that the young people are doing, it's eco-friendly, because it's unlike the others that are made out of synthetic and so many other things from plastics. For this one, they are made out of a banana fiber. So you can imagine how eco-friendly these things are. And now we are having a whole center whereby every year we'll be producing about 400 million pads for the young people. So we are going to be, we'll be selling this. We'll be selling these pads to the public health facilities here in Kenya. One pad goes for 30 bob, unlike the others which go for about 50 shillings. So one, we are very friendly in terms of pricing to ensure that we also cap the market. And the other part is we also want to, by the end of 2025, we want to create jobs for 1 million people here in Kenya, and we want to extend this to East Africa. So that is one way, because it must be interesting for people to willing to join. It doesn't need to look boring. People need to see opportunities. see how they can utilize networks available. And by the way, we are doing this across the world. I'm really anticipating that one day I'll be able to step in these platforms whereby maybe it can be the steps of leadership also in United Nations. I don't know, but I feel like we are an epitome of change. So that is one way. Another way that we're doing, we have really having an extensive talks with so many organizations. We spoke to Adventure of Humanity, who are running so many networks with the Nelson Mandela and the late Michael Jackson. They had opened some sort of they normally do sporting activities. So what we're deciding to do is anything that comes across our hand, we want to turn it to be a business. So what we are doing is from next year, we will be doing sporting activities as a way to create awareness to environment, sustainability, and also as a way of creating livelihoods to the young people. So what we will be doing is we will be opening up this with we are merging this with the idea of music, like musical concert as we open up. And through this, we are targeting to sell over 100,000 tickets. That is advance and also at the gate. So we want to do this. We even want to invite the president also to attend. And then these games are going to be divided into 3 main sessions as per the seasons. We'll be having winter games whereby we incorporate this with rugby, football, and basically hockey. So those are the things that we'll be doing. So anybody who will wish to participate, there is a registration fee for them. And this money that is being raised in registration fee goes back to the network to ensure that it's able to make the network's operation activities work, and also to ensure that we are recruiting more young people who have got a voice, not left out, even in the most rural areas in different parts of the world, to ensure that they are able to continue this conversation. The other idea is next year also, we want to open a podcast. This podcast is going to be like pre-COP. Any COP that comes in, we want to consolidate the voices of the young people to ensure that even if you not get an opportunity to go to COP, we want to move out to the COP committee. As early as from COP 29, we will be able to be telling them. We also have a section whereby people can listen to a webinar. Even the presidency for whatever COP that is going to happen, we want to have a legal framework that says we would love to hear someone from Sri Lanka, the farthest place of India, the place like Latin America, who depend on mudfish, for example, as a way of livelihood. So this is their voices. They don't have money to come to COP, but this is what they would wish to see in the world that we want to change into. So I'm inviting anyone. It's for you is really a good thing that we all indulging into this. But more importantly, we love to have this conversation even extended to other organizations to ensure that we make it as interesting as possible to make the young people being the head of all this.
Yeah. And then spread those ideas around the world, right? I think that's the really critical thing, because, it's amazing to hear about the success you've had in spreading so quickly across Africa. And I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes so people can really go and check out what you do. And when you launch your podcast, let me know. But yeah, voices. I mean, Antonio Guterres at the UN, he's obviously so committed to the voices of the youth. But, there's a lot more fossil fuel execs there, so it might be a bit hard for them to be heard, but he's committed, right? And I think, it's the answer. And the average age in Africa is so much younger than the rest of the world. So I'm inspired by everything that I'm seeing, but really hearing what you're doing, seeing you on the United Nations one day, I won't be surprised, or maybe a president or something like that.
Yeah. I would really love to. Yeah.
Yeah. You got the energy for it. So such a great privilege to talk to you today. Thank you so much. Good luck. Take care of yourself. I know you guys are doing a lot of stuff at the moment, and you got a big interview with the Sultan. So good luck with that. Make sure your voice is heard. I'm sure you will. And just a real pleasure to talk to you. And thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Really a pleasure. And let us know also, maybe with your area of operation, let's know how we can also, maybe through the podcast, we can always feel like also bringing someone like you from wherever you are also to talk to the young people as well. I feel like it's not a space that should leave anyone behind. Like that hashtag is really leaving no one behind. It's a very inspirational hashtag. Thank you so much.
Just the hashtag that you just said, during the pandemic, I'm in Phuket. So during the pandemic, it was 100% lockdown. And of course, everyone in Phuket, they earn their money through travel and tourism. So there was just no work. And it was very sad. And we set up a community called One Phuket. And the tagline was, let's leave no one behind. Because I think this is the time we've got to come together as communities. In fact, community is our only way that we're going to succeed. So we've got to come together as communities, take care of everyone in those communities, including the people who are least able to take care of themselves for whatever reason. So let's leave no one behind.
All
right.
Let's leave no one behind. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
It was nice.
Uncommon courage.